2022 has been a crazy year for movies. Some that were great.
Goodbye, Nicolas Cage.
And some that were fucking garbage.
You flipped too hard, damn it!
But all in all, compared to the last 2 years of the 2020s decade, I think that this year has been the best so far. Sure, it definitely wasn't the best year for comic book films, but if you look past all of the Marvel CGI disasters, I promise you there is more out there than meets the eye. And so, here we are, my top 10 favorite movies of 2022. Before I begin, here are some honorable mentions.
Keith?
You will find your reward does not come easily.
Puss in Boots?
Goldie.
Bears?
That's what I want for Christmas.
I will not let you leave this farm again.
We got another offer. It's $1 million. It's to attend a wealthy gentleman's birthday party.
I would never do that.
It's the easiest gig ever. You play yourself.
What do we know about this guy anyway? Is he into something strange?
It's not like he's gonna want you to suck his dick or fuck his wife or watch you watch him fuck his wife.
I wouldn't think so.
Alright. Without further ado, let's begin this list with number 10.
I will avenge you, father! I will save you, mother! I will kill you, Fiona!
I will avenge you, father. I will save you, mother. I will kill you, Fiona.
You know, this Robert Eggers guy is pretty damn good at making movies. So The Northman stars Alexander Skarsgård and follows the medieval tale of a badass Viking prince who embarks on a journey to avenge his father's death after he was murdered by his uncle. It's basically Hamlet on crack. And I thought that this movie was fucking awesome. The visuals are stunning, and the fight scenes are epic. It's like if The Lion King and Game of Thrones had a baby. Although the story isn't original, it is executed in a visually unique way. I mean, sure, we've seen this Hamlet-esque story several times on screen before, but as I just said, this film brings that specific story to a whole new level. It is very well made, and with its unique score and jaw-dropping shots tied together in an amazing, classic story, it's safe to say that this movie deserves a spot in my top 10. Moving on to number 9.
Sammy's on my team, takes after me.
What kind of movie are we gonna make?
You dismiss what he does. It's playful or imaginative. You could afford to be a little encouraging.
If I told you that The Fable Men is just another Steven Spielberg Oscar bait film that we see every 2 years, I would be lying. I thought that was what it was at first, but when I watched it, I was fucking blown away. This is Spielberg's best film in a long time. It follows the story of a teenage boy who simply loves one thing: making movies. At first, he uses this as a hobby, as a form of escapism, to get away from the drama he faces at home with his family, particularly his parents, who are on the verge of divorce. But as time goes on, the people around him begin to realize that he isn't just fucking around with a camera. He actually wants to make a name for himself in the film industry. As an aspiring filmmaker myself, it was so nice to see a movie that is centered around a young kid who just wants to follow his passion, because that was, and literally still is, me. There are some scenes that show him making these amateur films with his friends, and I just love that. There's this one scene where he's filming a war movie, and I was floored by the way the set of the battlefield was put together and how he filmed it all. And what impressed me the most was how he brings emotion out of one of his actors in a moment where all of his men are dead and he's the last one standing. It was truly a masterclass in filmmaking. The Fable Men is simply A feel-good flick that captures how a teenage kid balances his life at home with his life as a filmmaker. He was the kid who always had a camera in his hand. Just like me. And I fucking love that. This movie is great, and I urge you all to see it if you haven't already. It's definitely going to get a lot of Oscar buzz, and it deserves it.
Taking me to see basketball or
Bare knuckle boxing.
we do everything.
I'm Stanley Sugarman. I'm a scout for the 76ers.
So you're 22 years old because you can't be in the draft if you're over 22.
Yes, I'm 22 years old.
Who's this?
It's my son.
How old is he?
He's 10 years old.
Okay.
You know, there was a time when I thought Adam Sandler had fallen off. Maybe I thought this after I saw Jack and Jill.
Why are you so afraid to admit that we are connected? Face it, we shared mom's womb. We were roommates. Oh, that is just disgusting.
Or maybe I thought this when Mr. Sandler signed his career away to Netflix and starred in any dumb piece of garbage comedy movie they crapped out that year. But I was wrong. And funny enough, the 8th movie on this list is a Netflix movie. And it is fucking great. Hustle is about a basketball scout who discovers an unstoppable streetball player in Spain named Bo Cruz and tries to get him in the NBA. But even with Cruz's talents, he realizes that the NBA is a different ballgame and that he's going to need a bit more training if he wants to succeed in such an intense sport. From start to finish, this movie never failed to engage me. It is a feel-good, heartwarming underdog story that won me over with its inspiring message. Adam Sandler is brilliant as an aging scout who is down on his luck and simply just wants to get himself back in the spotlight by helping a young man achieve his dreams. Mr. Sandler has come a long way from Jack and Jill, and with this movie and uncut gems under his belt, it's safe to say that he's finally starting to take himself seriously once again. He is still one of the funniest actors from the 2000s, but then he had sort of a dry spell in the 2010s, but finally, Adam Sandler is back in full force. Hustle is one of the best Netflix movies of the year, and I hope to see Mr. Sandler in more films like this.
If Daddy catches us, there's no telling what he might do.
My wife is not well. It happens after dark.
Yeah, sure. Slasher flicks have been overdone over the years. But you know what? I think it's great when a film takes the basic-ass slasher movie formula and elevates it in an effective way. And that's just what X does. X takes place in the late 1970s and is about a group of people who venture off to a creepy house on a farm to film a porno. A porno? Nice. But when they discover that the owners of this farm, an old married couple who allowed them to stay there, are not who they seem, things start to spiral out of control, particularly when this couple starts killing them off one by one. It's sad, man. All these people wanted to do was give the world some nice fat material, and these old fuckers were like, nah, let's fucking kill them. Fuck them for making porn, I guess. But in all seriousness, this movie was fucking awesome. It's a horror slasher bloodbath that never holds back on anything. It's graphically violent in every way possible, and it is, without a doubt, the best horror film of the year. And it may be one of my favorite horror movies of all time, because it actually cares about the audience, unlike other horror films that were released this year. This movie was also just so fun to watch. Almost every scene kept me on the edge of my seat wondering what was going to happen next. I like to think X has revived the classic slasher genre, a genre that has been relying on sequels to big franchises such as Halloween and Scream to stay afloat in Hollywood. Finally, we can forget all of that shit because X is an original film with a unique take on this genre.
He's not just a chef, he's a storyteller. The game is trying to guess what the overarching theme of the entire meal is going to be. You won't know till the end.
Who are you?
So I've already reviewed the menu, so I'm not going to say much here. You can go to my channel and check it out. And if you've seen my review, then you already know that I fucking love this movie. It's a crazy psychological thriller that kept me invested until the end. And it all takes place in a fucking restaurant on a fucking island. It's that simple. The shots of the food are utter perfection, and overall this movie was very well written. It's funny, it's entertaining, it's cool, it's horrific, it's insane, it's shocking, it's brutal. Almost every word can be applied to this movie, and I would agree. That's what's so great about it. And I'm barely discussing what it's about because I want you to see it for yourself if you haven't already. It's worth it. And Ralph Fiennes or Ralph Fiennes or whatever is fucking awesome. That's all I'm gonna say. Moving on to the top 5.
We cannot let you bring your war here.
So just like the menu, I already reviewed Avatar: The Way of Water, so go to my channel and check it out. I've already said everything I could say about this movie. The visuals are the best I've ever seen, the CGI is nearly perfect, the performances are solid, the fight scenes are fucking epic, and the story, while it is basic and has some flaws here and there, is still pretty damn good. This movie is just as great as the first one, and even though it's 3 fucking hours long, it never really drags on in my opinion. This movie reminded me of the #1 rule of Hollywood. Never ever bet against James Cameron. I could watch this movie again and again, and I would never get tired of its brilliant cinematography. It deserves a spot in my top 5, and I will stand by that forever.
If this continues, it won't be long before you've nothing left.
I don't care what happens to me.
It's only gonna get worse for you.
Whoa, take it easy, sweetheart. Hear everything they say, ain't you?
Maybe we're not so different. Who are you under there?
I'm vengeance.
I'll admit it, when I first saw the Batman, I was a bit underwhelmed. Maybe because I was still blinded by the nostalgia of the Dark Knight trilogy, or maybe because my expectations were just too damn high. Regardless of all that, the more times I watched it, the more I loved it. Yeah, it's still not nearly as good as any film from the Dark Knight trilogy, but it's still a solid Batman film. The cinematography is amazing, and the musical score is, without a doubt, the best score of the year. It is dark, menacing, vibrant, and overall it works perfectly for the world of the film and for the overall tone. And the action sequences are spot on. The car chase between Batman and the Penguin had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. Also, I think Robert Pattinson kills it as Batman. Christian Bale is still the definitive Batman for me, but Robert's take on the role still stood out to me. We didn't see enough of him as Bruce Wayne, but that's okay. I like that Batman is in 90% of the film. The only issue is that because of this, the film lacks characterization for Bruce Wayne, but at the end of the day, we've seen Bruce Wayne's origin story only 1,000 times. Anyways, the Batman dominates most of the film as he goes full detective mode investigating the Riddler's crimes, and it works perfectly. As for Gotham City, while it is a realistic city just like in the Dark Knight trilogy, there's still something about it that was, different. Maybe it was the look of it, or the atmosphere or vibe if you will, but whatever it was, it worked. And besides Robert Pattinson, all of the other performances were solid too. Colin Farrell was great as the Penguin, even though I think they could have just casted an old fat dude to play the role instead of doing the most and throwing a bunch of makeup on Mr. Farrell. But besides that, he was still pretty damn good. Jeffrey Wright was also great, as was Zoe Kravitz, and Paul Dano as the Riddler was insanely psychotic and he did a great job as well. Honestly, when I first saw this movie, I thought there was no chance it would make my top 5. But here we are. My, how things change.
Wieder mehr als 40.000 Tote allein in den letzten Wochen.
Es ist vorbei. Im Namen der Menschlichkeit, ich bitte Sie um den Waffenstillstand.
You crazy son of a bitch, Netflix. You've done it again. All Quiet on the Western Front puts you right in the center of the trenches of World War I. It has visual battle sequences that make you feel like you are in this war fighting alongside everyone else. It's fucking insane. So this film is about a young man who wants to fight for his country, but when he's thrown into battle, he realizes that being in this war is damn near a suicide mission. The movie does a tremendous job illustrating the horrors of war and what it does to us as people, how it traumatizes us, how it forces us to see things that stick with us for the rest of our lives. The beautiful cinematography captures every single element of what World War I was like, and we see it all through the eyes of our protagonist, who struggles to survive as bodies drop left and right in front of him. As time goes on, he starts to realize that war isn't about strength or about how many people you can kill. It's about survival. There's no sugarcoating history in this movie. The director keeps it real and ensures that you truly understand what it was like to fight in this war. There's nothing else to say about it really. This is such an amazing movie that is so real and does not bullshit you in any way. It is one of the best war movies I've ever seen, and honestly, between this and 1917, I think that this one might be the better World War I movie. Granted, I haven't seen 1917 in a while, but I feel like if I watched both again, I would be leaning more towards this one, honestly. Aside from all that, this movie was so fucking well made that I just had to put it in my top 3.
Captain Pete Maverick Mitchell. Let me be perfectly blunt. You are not my first choice. You are here at the request of Admiral Kazansky, aka Iceman. He seems to think that you have something left to offer the Navy. What that is, I can't imagine.
With all due respect, sir, I'm not a teacher. Just want to manage expectations.
What the hell? Good morning, aviators.
Top Gun Maverick, aka Tom motherfucking Cruise doing Tom motherfucking Cruise things. If there is any type of movie 2022 desperately needed, it's this one. It's simply a movie that is only meant to entertain you, not lecture you about the present day world because it doesn't give a rat's ass about the present day world, because the only world that matters is the world in this movie, and that's it. I am so fucking happy about that. That is how a movie should be. This film has such an engaging plot with great characters and simple themes, and that's all anyone could ever really ask for from something like this. What I love most about Top Gun Maverick is that it doesn't try to be overly complicated. It keeps things simple. It's about an elite group of fighter pilots in the US Navy who must go on an extremely dangerous mission, and Tom motherfucking Cruise, aka Maverick, must do whatever he can to lead his pilots to victory against the enemy. The flying sequences are so well shot. I mean, the cinematography is fucking perfect. Every time I watch this movie, I am constantly reminded of how far Tom Cruise has come since the first film. And this leads me to admitting that Top Gun Maverick is better than the first one.
Say what? What?
Yes, folks. I know the first Top Gun is a classic 80s movie that became a cultural phenomenon in America. However, Top Gun Maverick is one of those rare sequels that surpasses its predecessor in every way. And let me explain why. In the 80s, Tom Cruise wasn't the action star we all know and love today. At that time, he was just a rebellious teenager from Risky Business or whatever. So, with the first Top Gun, action didn't seem to be the main focus of the film. Instead, they wanted to make a masculine cliche 80s pilot movie with every 80s cliche you could possibly think of. Which is fine, sure, okay, but it doesn't age too well if you're not into the cheesy, corny shit. And yes, the first Top Gun is super corny at times. Let's not forget about that, okay? But as for Top Gun Maverick, this is a movie that was released at the peak of Tom Cruise's action hero career. So of course they were going to take advantage of that and include more action in this one compared to the first one. What also makes this movie so much better than the first one is, well, I mean, it's shot better. I just said the flying scenes are fucking awesome and beautiful to look at in this movie because it's fucking true. See it for yourself, man. I mean, of course, the Top Gun Maverick flying scenes are better than the flying scenes in the first one. Why? Maybe because technology has progressed over the last 36 fucking years? Look, I'm not saying that the first Top Gun movie wasn't groundbreaking at the time. It definitely was. I'm just saying that whatever the first Top Gun movie did, Top Gun Maverick did it better. And there's nothing else to really say about this movie. If you haven't seen it yet, then what the fuck are you doing with your life, bro? Go see it now. The story is great, the action scenes are great, the musical score is amazing, you know Hans Zimmer never disappoints, and the acting is great. And speaking of the acting, Tom motherfucking Cruise is still a motherfucking legend. That man still got it, bro. God bless him. His relationship with Goose's son, Rooster, played by Miles Teller, was so effective for the story. The way Rooster struggled to accept the truth of what happened between Maverick and his father, but how over time he not only learned that Maverick tried to save him before he died, but also that Maverick simply wanted to be the father Rooster never had. It's so heartwarming. I could cry myself to sleep. Oh man, JK, no. I don't cry in movies. Crying is for pussies, am I right? Anyways, now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for. Out of all of the movies that came out this year, there was one film that fucking blew my mind. This was a movie that truly stood out to me over everything else. A movie that made it clear to me that originality is still a thing. Without further ado, my favorite movie of 2022 is... drumroll please. Everything Everywhere All at Once is without a doubt the best movie of 2022. I loved everything about this movie, no pun intended. It stars Michelle Yeoh, who delivers arguably the best performance of her career, along with fucking Short Round from Indiana Jones.
Hey, you cheat, Dr. Jones, you cheat.
It also stars Jamie Lee Curtis, who plays an IRS agent who makes it difficult for Michelle Yeoh's character to keep her laundry business. Jamie Lee Curtis definitely needed a movie like this, considering the other recent films she's done. So the plot of this movie follows the story of a Chinese immigrant mother who embarks on a journey through the multiverse to save her family from an evil higher power that wants to destroy everything. It sounds kind of simple, but trust me, it's actually quite the opposite, but like in a good way. It's not overly complex, but it has just the right amount of complexity needed to tell a complicated but compelling story. And holy shit, this movie is so fucking mind-blowing, it's insane. The synopsis I just described is kind of vague compared to what the movie's actually about, because I don't want to really spoil it for those of you who have been living under a rock and have not seen it yet. It's one of those movies that can't be fully described. You just have to see it for yourself. And that's what's so fucking amazing about this movie. This is an example of a multiverse film done right. No, not you, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Get the fuck off my screen now. That's better. Anyways, this movie is so insanely creative, like holy shit, the writing was fucking genius. Michelle Yeoh's character learned so much about the other versions of herself as she travels to each universe. For example, she goes to this one alternate universe where she was a trained kung fu warrior, a goal that was impossible for her to achieve in the real world, and through her ability to access her memories in this particular world, she was able to develop these certain type of skill sets needed to fight against anyone who stands in her way. That whole sequence is just one of the many creative elements that the writers used to develop her character into a badass multiverse fighter. Seriously, if there's any movie where the protagonist significantly changes from the beginning to the end, it's this one. There is so much to love about this movie. The editing choices, the distinguishable shots, the writing, the plot story and characters, the fight scenes, the performances, the shock value, the insanity behind some of the character choices. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And the best part about this movie is that because it deals with multiple universes, there are so many details about the world building of the film that will take several viewings to notice, meaning that there is always something new that you'll get out of watching it. Even if you've already seen it 100 times, there's always something you'll notice that you didn't notice before. So many shots, so many elements of the world that you may not have picked up on the first time you saw it. I mean, there's so much that happens in it. When a movie is like that, then you know the writing is pretty damn good. Seriously, you could watch this movie 999 times, and by the 1000th time, you will still notice something that you haven't seen before. That's how creative this movie is. Now, I thought long and hard.
That's what she said.
About whether Top Gun Maverick deserves the top spot on my list or if this one deserves it. And the reason I chose Everything Everywhere All at Once is because unlike Top Gun Maverick, this film is original and overall it is much more creative. Sure, I usually like it when a film keeps it simple like Top Gun Maverick, but at the end of the day, a movie that can be super complex but still easy enough to understand with a script that spills out endless creative ideas is better than a movie that plays it safe. So between those two movies, and because of all of those reasons, Everything Everywhere All at Once wins this battle. I love this movie, and there is no question that it is the best movie of the 2020s decade so far. So, yeah, that's it. Those are my top 10 favorite movies of 2022. What about you guys? What are your top 10 favorite movies of the year? Comment on this video and let your boy know. As always, thanks for watching, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe as there will be more movie reviews on the way.